So how should New Delhi respond to what's happening in Nepal? Joining me now, a very special guest, Ranjit Ray, former ambassador of India to Nepal between 2013 and 17, a very crucial period, and author of the Kathmandu Dilemma. Appreciate your joining us, Mr. Ray. How should India respond? Should India have a hands-off approach to what happens in Nepal, or is it simply impossible, given our strong relationship with Nepal, for India to really keep its hands off what's happening at the moment in Nepal?
Well, Nepal is a critical relationship for India, and it's a very, very deep, it's a fraternal relationship. So clearly, India cannot have a hands-off policy. And historically, India has always supported popular aspirations, people's aspirations for whatever system they want. And I think India's policy should remain the same. And we should really support whatever new dispensation is going to emerge out of all this chaos. Some steps are already being taken, and I'm sure the government of India is also closely monitoring and is also in touch with all the political forces in Nepal.
But given the rapid flow of developments, Mr. Ray, do you fear somewhere that we were caught a bit off guard? There are those who are likening what's happening in Nepal to what happened in Bangladesh only a year ago, student protests that spiraled out of control. Do you believe that we've been caught napping, or that we didn't expect it to reach the proportions it did so quickly?
I don't think anyone was caught napping. Nobody could have anticipated the magnitude of the protests, and especially on the second day. And I think that was in part a reaction to the killing of 19 students the day before. Had the situation been handled differently, had the Prime Minister resigned in time, had the protesters not been killed, I don't think we would have seen the kind of situation that we saw yesterday. The other thing is, these are students, Nepalese students, and that's the way the protest started. But I think yesterday, as the issue dragged on, perhaps other elements also got into the act, and there was some looting and vandalism. And, all the state institutions have been burnt down. So it's a bad situation, but I understand that the army chief is in touch with Gen Z's representatives, and they're trying to see what kind of interim arrangements can be made.
Which brings me to a question that's often asked whenever there's a crisis in Nepal, Ambassador Ray, that such situations, particularly with anti-social elements at times taking over, can also turn into anti-India sentiment. We've seen that happen on occasion in the past. Do you see this as very different, a purely internal issue caused by anger against joblessness and misgovernance? There is no anti-India angle here.
So I largely see this as a homegrown protest. And, the banning of the social media apps was only the trigger. There's a long, for several months, even years, there's been a lot of resentment. And, there has been a feeling that the political leaders have not delivered development to the people. My worry, of course, is that people might conflate this with the Constitution of 2015. Who do you blame for the non-delivery of development of jobs? Is it the political leaders? Is it the Constitution? And, if you enter into the latter part of this kind of thinking, then you're entering very, very dangerous waters, because the 2015 Constitution itself was a negotiated compromise between the diverse elements of Nepalese society and was forged in the aftermath of the violent Maoist insurgency and the Madhesi Andolans. So I think it's very important to keep that in mind.
Because since the monarchy's abolition in 2008, Nepal has seen 14 governments. Since the constitution in 2015, it's seen 9 governments. Is there a chronic instability built in which should worry India? Because having a Himalayan republic on our borders with chronic instability can be a destabilizing factor. How worrying should that be for India, this chronic instability at the moment in Nepal?
This is one of the problems. There is this chronic instability because they have a mixed electoral system. It's a combination of first past the post and proportional representation. As a result, nobody really gets an absolute majority. So this is inbuilt into the system. But what I'm trying to say is that certainly the system needs to be improved and can be improved. But the question is whether you work with the present system or you jettison the system and come up with something different. And if it's the latter case, then I think we're heading or looking at very different scenarios.
So what should India's role then be? Can India play a stabilizing role, or will any role played by India be seen in the present environment as interference in Nepal's internal politics?
No, I don't think so. I think the situation is far too serious within Nepal. It's in India's interest to have stability in Nepal. It's in India's interest to work with whichever dispensation arises. It's in India's interest to support stabilization in Nepal. We have very good relations with the Nepalese army. We have across-the-board contacts with Nepalese political forces, and I'm sure we are engaged with each of them. So I think India's role right now should be a supporter to what the people of Nepal want.
How easy is that, though? You were, of course, in Nepal. I recall during the blockade that took place, it became very contentious, controversial at times, the informal blockade or unofficial blockade at the time. Is it easy for India, being this large country, to be able to play any kind of role? Because as I said earlier, the moment we do, we could be accused of being the big brother or the big bully. So do we have to navigate this issue very, very carefully, not be seen to be taking any side at all?
Well, absolutely. I mean, but this is something that we've known for the last 70 years, and this has to be factored into our policy. So there's no doubt about it. And, this is a fact of life. We have to live with this. But given that, how do we support and stabilize the situation in Nepal, which is in Nepal's interest and in our interest? And we have to be engaged. Today, the situation is very different from, the situations in the past, because earlier you had established political parties. Today, you have these new political forces that are, relatively unknown. Of course, some of them are quite well known, like the mayor of Kathmandu, who's very popular, or the leader of the Rashtriya Swatantra Party, who's just been released from jail and is also very popular. So we have to reach out to the youths, to the newer elements of society in Nepal. We are doing that. We need to do much more of that, because they are going to control the reins of power in Nepal in the foreseeable future.
So does that call for a complete reset in the way we look at this new generation which has emerged, which has taken to the streets in this unprecedented manner, expressing their anger against joblessness, against nepotism, corruption, misgovernance? Do we have to have a complete reset of the way we look at Nepal, given these new forces that are emerging there?
Well, I don't think diplomacy ever involves a complete reset, but certainly the emphasis and the priorities have to be adapted, and they must respond to the emerging situation. And now that political power is really going to be with the Gen Z or the young people, I think we've got to make every effort that we can to reach out to them.
So net, would I be right in concluding that our priority at the moment should be to strike some kind of a new relationship, a more durable relationship with these new forces emerging in Nepal, engage with them, dialogue with them, is the way forward, rather than simply looking at previous old historical and cultural ties?
Well, certainly we need to look at our historical and cultural ties and the people-to-people relationship, but we need to build more on that, and we need to look at the economic relationship, the connectivity that we have, and of course the focus has to be the youth. The bulk of the people in Nepal are the youth. And in the past perhaps they did not directly control the levers of power, but today they're in the process of achieving that. So clearly the focus has to remain on what we've been doing, but new dimensions have to be added to our diplomacy in a very, very focused and significant way.
Ranjit Ray, for speaking to me. I appreciate you joining us and sharing your wisdom. Thank you very much.